Menjelang upacara Hari Kemerdekaan Indonesia ke-79, Ibu Kota Nusantara menjadi magnet bagi media luar negeri termasuk media barat. Mereka menyoroti semua sisi pembangunan IKN, mulai dari politik, ekonomi, investasi, hutan, iklim, dan masa depan Indonesia yang disebut menjadi negara yang penting.
Indonesia is probably one of the most important but least understood countries in the world.
Let's talk about Indonesia, because the country is set to inaugurate its new capital later on this week, not something we hear about very often. This is to coincide with the country's Independence Day, but it's been a rather bumpy ride, hasn't it, to Nusantara? Tell us more.
Well, Nadia, it's certainly an ambitious project. Indonesia is building a new city from scratch in the middle of a rainforest in Borneo. Now, but with just days to go before its planned inauguration on Saturday, construction for the new city is far from finished. Key infrastructure projects such as water supply and electricity failed to meet their July completion deadlines. On Monday, Indonesian President Joko Widodo finally managed to hold the first cabinet meeting in Nusantara. Announced in late 2019, construction for the new city began in 2022 with the target of having a workforce of about 4.8 million by 2045 and relocating some 33,000 public servants in phases over the next 5 years. Now, the government expects to cover only a fifth of the roughly 30 billion euro price tag, relying on private investment for the rest. But money has been slow to come by. Earlier this month, President Widodo announced new incentives, including land rights of up to 190 years to lure more investment as the mega project is set to continue for decades. Here's what the president, who's leaving office in October, and his elected successor said earlier on the site.
Nusantara is a canvas on which we draw our future. Not all countries have the opportunity and ability to build their capital city from scratch.
We will definitely finish it, although it will take dozens of years to complete. I am optimistic that in 5 years the city will be functioning very well.
The incoming Indonesian president speaking there. And just tell us, Yuka, why is Indonesia moving its capital at all?
Well, this is as much out of necessity as anything else. The current capital, Jakarta, is overcrowded with more than 10 million inhabitants and 30 million in the greater metropolitan area. It's been described as the world's fastest sinking city. It's estimated that a third of Jakarta will be underwater by 2050. Now, the main cause is uncontrolled groundwater extraction, but that's been exacerbated by climate change. Floods as well as earthquakes are common. The air is heavily polluted, and the city's heavy congestion is said to be costing 4 billion euros annually. Now, moving to Nusantara has a symbolic meaning too. It's located in Borneo, roughly in the center of Indonesia. The government also wants to showcase a sustainable forest city that's clean and environmentally friendly.
Well, there is, though, quite a lot of controversy surrounding the megacity, isn't there?
Well, despite that slated aim of making the city greener and achieving carbon neutrality by 2050, skeptics worry about the environmental impact of building a megacity in the rainforest. First of all, there's concern over forest destruction, of course. Even though the government is promising to replant trees, less than a tenth of the reforestation target for Nusantara had been achieved by February of this year. Many are also worried about the potential impact on wildlife, as East Kalimantan is home to orangutans, leopards, dolphins, and a wide array of other animals. Several villages with indigenous Balik people had to be relocated as well for the project, though the government has offered financial compensation to these people. In the short term, though, the biggest issue is construction delays and a lack of investment, as I mentioned earlier.
Investasi yang masuk sudah 56,2 triliun rupiah dari 55 yang sudah groundbreaking. Pendidikan ada 6, kesehatan ada 3, retail dan logistik ada 10, hotel ada 8, energi dan transport ada 2, kantor dan perbankan ada 14, hunian dan area hijau ada 9, media dan teknologi ada 3.
Selain itu, Indonesia kasih paham media barat tentang regulasi yang menguntungkan Indonesia untuk menarik investasi. Indonesia punya caranya sendiri.
It is for the better of Indonesia, for the stability of Indonesia, but also to serve better for both region and the world. How does it work? We are opening up, and that's why when I mentioned earlier that one of the milestone of President Jokowi achievement is on the job creation law. We are improving investment climate and investment regulation to become more open, following the best practices. So this is not like Indonesia want FDI, as we mentioned, to come to Indonesia, but we are not doing our homework. We are doing our homework, improving infrastructure, bureaucracy, legislation, so that the ease of doing business is there. And at the same time, we then say that we ban raw material so that the investor come here to build value added in Indonesia for a, benefiting for both sides. Benefiting for both sides. Meaning that I'm not inviting investors to come and then I'm going to expropriate or exploiting them. But this is like a win-win relationship.
And finally, Minister, we are at the end of an era, but a new era is about to begin with your new president due to be inaugurated, Prabowo Subianto, in October. Now, President Widodo has been very focused on the economy. Do you believe that your new president will be as focused, and are you in any way concerned that perhaps the focus will deviate to other matters?
I think these are going to be hopefully a smooth transition politically, but also at the same time providing certainty in terms of the direction of policy as well as good practice in political as well as the economic management. Of course, the world is not going to be the same. There will be quite dynamic, as we can also see in many countries, many part of the region. They are all changing the landscape of the politics, the direction. Geopolitical competition is going to be continued very high. So yeah, it's going to be quite a dynamic and challenging environment. But so far, up until today, my communication and interaction, I think is quite still consistent with what we are aiming to do. That is addressing the issue of middle income trap. That is human capital investment, and then downstreaming and value added, and then in terms of the institutional building.
Pembangunan IKN dan masa depan Indonesia yang dianggap akan menjadi negara maju, itu turut menjadi perhatian bagi negara-negara Barat.